Well, this might be the last cunt stream because Schmeckel might not be with us for much longer. With that said, ooga fucking ooga cunt. No, I'm joking. We're fine. He's not dead yet. But yet being the key phrase. So here we're joined by Tim, the one with the Academy. Schmeckel. Schmeckel. Playapod.
What's poppin', Jimbo?
And don't panic. All right, this isn't the alien you think it is. We're joined by a very special guest, the Cynics. Cynic?
Yeah, that son bitch did fuck up the aliens for everybody.
Oh my god! I mean, it's like you know that guy is made. It's practically made the alien race practically like the I don't know, like the Muslims right now. We're always cautious of you people. We're not going to come out there and say it, but we're cautious.
Well, I'm an asshole, but that's about it.
That doesn't help your case.
Says the person that runs a stream called the Cunt Stream.
Hey, I don't run shit. I'm just here to help out. I do drawings. This is the Schmeckel's thing.
Yeah, Samaj is just the official artist of the Cunt Stream.
Yeah.
An equally classy job. He gets to draw all the fucked up things we talk about.
I have to try and sum it up in a thumbnail drawing, which is it's not easy sometimes. So many conversations occur. I'm like, we need a fucking theme. Oh, we're not sticking onto a theme. Oh, then what the fuck am I gonna do?
At least it's better than they used to be when you try and plan them beforehand and they'd have nothing to do with what we were talking about.
That was a mistake. Every time I ever tried planning a thumbnail out, it never really worked out. So I just have to like let people talk.
Oh, the one that gets me is that fucking Easter one you did.
God, everything that we talked about had nothing to do with that thumb. I tried so hard to get people talking about Easter-related themes, and no one could keep to it. Fucking
there were more important things that night. I'm pretty sure that was the Jeff Holiday angry MGTOW thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that was bad.
All right, so this is theoretical rhetoric. But before we hop into the topic, Chambers of My Heart's in the chat saying that Suit Yourself's been terminated.
Yeah.
What do you mean by terminated?
2 strikes.
Egad, man.
Are we talking YouTube or Twitter?
YouTube, I think.
My God.
How many followers did he have?
He had like 74,000 subs.
Oh shit! I thought he was lower than that.
Or maybe it was lower. I thought it was high like that. I could be wrong. I'm usually
sorry. It cut out for me. Did you say Twitter or YouTube?
YouTube.
Really? Yeah. That's holy shit. Do we want to like send a link to him and see if he wants to talk about that?
Yes. Send a link along to him.
All right.
Tell us how you feel about this.
Yeah.
Tell me how you feel right now. How do you feel, Tim Huggins? How do you feel right now?
I feel sad.
You'd be like Joe Rogan, who's talking to that fighter who got his ass whooped.
How do you feel right now? I know you just got your ass beat the shit out of this entire fucking round in the octagon, but how do you feel right now? My head's fucking still swimming because I got knocked the fuck out, but I'm okay.
He couldn't even say a coherent thought. The dude was knocked out on his feet.
Wait, which one are you talking about? He does that to everybody.
Out of curiosity, didn't Suit Yourself also get his Twitter account suspended?
He was posting all this stuff.
Oh, he was? Okay. All right. Yeah. Why is he not showing up?
Is he on
at yourself suit. His Twitter's still there.
Does he do like? Why the fuck is he not? Is it just me? Maybe my Twitter's stupid.
Yeah, probably.
Object of Hate in the chat says, so no Han Solo #4 this week. For once, I had a comic book series to talk about. Object of Hate next week. I was way too sick for Han Solo last night.
He's dying. Don't you know he has space AIDS? Come on, guys. Be more considerate. Come on, guys.
Yeah, it's either AIDS or the plague or some new type of cancer. I'm not sure yet, but
It's
whatever it
space
is, it's not
bubonic
fun.
plague. Bubonic plagues.
This is what happens when you don't build the fucking space wall.
All right, I don't understand what the fuck's going on there. Why are you trying to block me out? What's up with this space wall?
Hey, yeah, I'm just saying your kind aren't sending their best people.
Well, I saw Sinatra is asking for like $100,000 to build a space wall.
Give him the money.
Yeah, it's a good cause. It's a noble cause.
True.
Is that the reference for the wall for Mexico?
I would assume so, unless there are other plans for other walls.
The Northern Wall.
Hey, I'm not saying we wouldn't enjoy that too.
I'm surprised Canada doesn't put a wall up against America.
I mean, I would.
I'm not sure.
Shit pod.
I'm not sure if our country can do that now that your country's decided to build theirs. Trudeau will do anything he can to not look like Trump.
Well, you guys don't let anybody in anyways. If you got a DUI, you can't get in that fucker.
Unless you're Muslim.
Unless you're Muslim and you throw a grenade to an American hangout, then
if you've been drinking and driving and you fucking run someone over, you're not getting the fuck in here. You've been drinking and riding your fucking camel and you run a lady down, you're first on the fucking list.
Number one top rated dumbass.
So anyway, on to the topic. What is the you know what? I'm gonna go take a drink or something. Samaj, bring up the topic.
Wait, what? How am I supposed to bring up the topic? I don't know what the topic is.
I got it. Hang on one second. Let me pull it up.
Thank God.
Christ's sake.
Just give me a second. He said topic is what is the value of tradition? And we'll start with Tim Huggins. Go.
The value of tradition.
What's the value of tradition? High
So-
value, low value, medium value, no value.
So, do you is it talking about traditional values like culture?
I think he's just talking about tradition in general, like traditions, like some just like any tradition that like if it's like a get together with a family or like some type of family tradition, any type of tradition. Do you find like traditions on average? Do you think like in general? Do you think that traditions are a good thing, a bad thing? You don't care. Which one?
I don't think it's really a good or a bad thing. I think it's kind of a human thing, and it's kind of how we naturally come up with cultures, languages, religions, all these kind of things. It's just a naturally occurring thing, and it's how we preserve, historical events. It's how we preserve significant things that happened in the past. I don't think it's neither good or bad in it of itself. I mean, I'm sure you could look and see good and bad, or what some people would consider good and bad traditions. The way that we acquire traditions is a very just human thing. It's just how we commemorate the past.
Okay. Tradition. What?
Oh, sorry, I was about to say, well, like, what do you think so much?
Well, I do think that having traditions and all that, I think it's actually a good thing. It's more or less like, how would I put this? It's kind of like a social habit, similar to how when we get into other habits, like brushing your teeth when you go to bed. I think there are certain yearly or even centuries-old traditions that we tend to do as a sort of a sign of identity, but also as a form of routine, similar to how like we bring the tree up for Christmas. And I mean, no one says you have to do any of that, but it's sort of a traditional thing, and a lot of us just sort of do it. And I think it's good for, well, I think, what was that? Oh, I just heard something. Anyway, it's good for like just cohesion. It's good for a routine. It's good for well, a lot of things really. Um, and that's not to say like traditions couldn't be like changed over time too. I mean, a lot of people hear tradition, they seem to think that it needs to stay stagnant into this one thing and only this one thing. But traditions change over time and with families and with generations. I mean, Christmas itself is such a large amalgamation of so many different traditions. It's never really exactly. It's always got common traits, but it's always been more flexible as time goes on. I think people will always add stuff in there, certain family traditions and whatnot. Same thing with Halloween and all that. So I think it's good that there's some traditions that kept in there. I don't really, I'm just sort of rambling at this point. I mean, I think overall, I think traditions are good.
Okay, and so next.
Yeah, I don't understand how you could think traditions would be bad. I mean, overall, at least. I mean, you get your individual traditions, like if you take like Middle Eastern people who do polygamy. You know, so what do they get? Seven women each. That's going to leave men without some women. You can't drink over there. It's hot. There's a bunch of sand. I can see why,
They're not allowed to masturbate either. They can't touch themselves. So you get 7 women to 1 man. You got a bunch of crazed, horny, sand-dwelling men who can't touch themselves and can't get a wife.
Absolutely.
Why do you think they're blowing themselves up?
Huh. I understand the out. I get it. But then you got America. Look what we fucking do. Every kid gets a trophy no matter what. And now we got a bunch of idiots.
I don't think it's a tradition, though. I think it's something that's coming out recently. I don't really think that's a tradition.
What's that?
The handing out trophies to kids. I don't really think that's.
Well, there's a lot of schools that have been doing it for the last 20 years at least.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know what you're basing on tradition. I don't know how long it has to be before it's a tradition. But if you don't want to take that one,
I'd say 20 years. I'd say 20 years. It's a fucking tradition. Every child gets a prize.
Well, and I think you can really see it in society. You have these individuals that have an argument. They're proved to be wrong, but instead of changing their argument, they just stick with their fucking argument because they're used to being able to do whatever and still win. But then
exactly when they get into real life, it doesn't work that way, and they're shocked.
No, they run into
how to handle it.
Yeah, they run into people like me in the country, and they're like, "Oh shit," you know. I mean, I don't like Andy, but Jesus Christ, he makes a great point when all these people are bitching about the stupid fucking blood sports. I mean, how retarded are we at this point? But they're bitching about it, but they won't come on and argue about it, or they won't come in and argue against the alt-right, even though they sit there and just bitch on Twitter. I mean, I think it's because we got pussies living in today's society. But of course,
I guarantee it's because of that.
What's that?
Because people don't want to be proven wrong about stuff. I think that's why.
Oh yeah, it's one of the biggest things for people to just admit, yeah, I was wrong. Jesus Christ, if I do that, I'd be a retard right now. I mean, I'm pretty dumb, but fuck, I'm 40. I couldn't imagine doing that for my whole fucking life. But then you go into your positive stuff, and like Christmas, you got Christmas, especially just think about like the 1700s when it's fucking cold and you don't know if you want to live anymore, but you got this day that you can go and you can meet your family and they can talk about your history and all that shit. And we still do that today with the history. You can look at suicide rates. You know, they always go up around Christmas, and that's usually because they don't have families. So doing that little traditional things are, of course, positives. And that works in society too. I mean, we have a tradition of going out and spending all this fucking money. That helps the economy. That also provides jobs for 3 months. You can make $6,000 where I live in a 3-month period just during that Christmas time. So the tradition actually affects with the culture.
Can we define tradition, because I think it's extremely loose. I mean, you guys.
I did it to be fairly vague. It could be like personal, like family traditions, religious traditions, national traditions, any of that shit. Now, what do you think is the I wasn't asking so much. Is tradition good or bad? No, I can't see any argument where tradition across the board would be a bad thing. What do you think its function is? What purpose do you think it serves?
To me, it's just it probably originated as just a way to remember historical events or to remember significant days, and but it could also mean a way of instituting morals for a group or for a religion. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why we come up with certain traditions, and even some of the traditions aren't necessarily good, like circumcision or polygamy that was mentioned before, and those are all very old traditions, but the reason behind those traditions is to commemorate an event or something. So I don't it's we could say there's a reason to have it or not. You could even say that there's people who are trying to get rid of traditions and base everything on reason or logic or science or something. But I don't really think we can get away from it. There will always be something that you guys mentioned the trophies that they give out to kids. It may not be a tradition now, but it could be in 10 years. And it could signify the day that people stop being as competitive. So it always holds a device.
I gotta sidetrack a bit here. People less competitive, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It depends on the society and the group. So
would you have Elon Musk? Would you have Elon Musk if 50 years ago everybody stopped competing?
I don't think we would for some reason.
I don't think so either.
I don't. I think competition's a good thing. Maybe that's just the capitalism. Maybe it's just saying that, but I think competition in every single aspect is a good thing.
Competition is done all around the world. I mean, in Africa they have tribes. I mean, look at Wakanda. To take the kingdom, you got to
Wakanda is such a nice kingdom, dude.
It is. It's perfect.
Number one in the economy. Number one in vibranium.
So why do they have all that technology but still fight with sticks?
Who the fuck knows?
Well, on top of that, how good is it if your king can be dethroned via a fight? I mean, all you gotta do is goddamn challenge the guy with a fight. Just be better than him.
Hey guys, I can't talk about Black Panther because I got a strike for that on my last stream.
Oh, did you really?
What?
Oh, damn. It's probably because the black nationalists saw it.
Yeah. Exactly.
What did you say about Black Panther that was so offensive, Tim?
Why would you make him repeat it on this stream?
Why? That's a fair point.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if we have to be vague about it, I'm just gonna say it's an okay movie. All right, it's okay.
I managed to see the first 10 minutes of it, but the version I had was not very clear. So,
by version, he means
Michael, are you trying to tell us that you watch pirated movies?
No, he's trying to tell you he was very sick in the theater and was unable to remain his focus on the movie. That's why he had to leave early to go vomit. Isn't that right, Schmeckle?
Exactly. I told Samaj the whole story before the stream.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly how it happened. That's exactly how the conversation went. Right?
Exactly.
Yes.
I mean, you left out the part where you said all those nice things about me, but we don't have to share those with the audience.
Yeah.
A lot of them were aggressively sexual.
Well, yeah. We don't have to talk about that. No. I think, yeah. So, moving on from Black Panther. Something about tradition.
something traditional, something.
Something
Killing
traditional.
myself.
I think we're having a hard time staying focused on this one. I don't know. I mean,
What traditions do you think are the worst traditions?
circumcision.
Yeah,
How
that'd be
did I-
up
How
there.
did I know that was gonna come up? I'm gonna be.
You,
the only
you kind
one-
of set yourself up for that, didn't you?
I'm gonna be the only motherfucker in this entire thing that's gonna say that circumcision is a good thing. So let's go ahead and get it started. Let's go.
All right, hold on. I actually know a guy who didn't get circumcised. He got a horrible infection because of it. So he had to get a circumcision at he's like 40, which is not fucking cool at all. So you got somebody on your side on this one.
Okay, cool.
That's different. That's a health reason.
Yeah, but it wouldn't have happened if he would have just got circumcised as a
Well,
kid.
Health reason for
look.
circumcising your
Yeah,
kid.
but I mean, your kid could get ball cancer, but you don't cut his balls off when he's a baby.
Well, okay, that's
not only-
extreme.
Not
That's a bit
only
of an
that, I
extreme
mean, one
example. That's a
look.
bit of a straw man.
Look, one case does not mean that you throw away the whole thing. It's just because
How
one
about
person
if
has
I-
a problem.
If I were to tell you 200,000 cases per year in America, would that change your mind?
No, why would it?
200,000 per year.
Yeah, and the only thing that shows is, well, first of all, we need to know why it's happening. A large portion of that is like lack of hygiene.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to try to keep that in mind. Maybe proper hygiene, but then again, if you circumcise a bunch of people and assume that you don't have to, of course they don't know what they're going to do. All right, if you already have the mindset in the society, which is probably what's going on, of course you don't know what to do with the kids who aren't circumcised. You clean down there. I mean, it's not a hard topic, but for some reason, when society is like predominantly circumcised, which I don't think that it really is, but you know, you're just not prepared for it.
Yeah, I would
What's
like to
wrong with
point out to the
circumcision?
chat
Like, I
right
don't
now
understand.
that whether or not you circumcise your kid, clean your kid's junk.
Yeah.
Keep your kid's junk clean. They're gonna need that when they're older. Actually, they need it right now, but they're gonna really need it when they're older. Don't fuck it up for them.
Teach them some good habits. I mean, I wasn't properly like taught on how to like clean my teeth, and I have all these cavities and teeth problems. Okay, I mean, it's common knowledge, but you have to teach some things to your kids.
Yeah, but you can't teach the fucking English to brush their teeth, you know?
You what?
You can't even teach the English to brush their teeth. How the fuck are you going to get kids to wash their ding dong?
That's true. Circumcising the British is okay.
Like,
I thought the Brits have good teeth or something.
their fucking teeth are disgusting, dude. Have you seen them? They're
No,
fucking-
it's actually a strange thing with them. The British actually do have the best dental health in the world.
Yeah,
They
I
just
read
have
that.
ugly
There's
ass
no
teeth.
fucking way. They have some fucked up teeth.
No, it's
seen
true.
them.
They just don't give a fuck about what their teeth look like. So
Yeah.
they're ugly as shit.
They don't do the cosmetic stuff.
Sounds like they need
Fucked
some
up,
teeth
the guy.
shaming over there. Nice teeth shaming. See a dentist, you fucking slobs.
All right, big guys. I gotta head out. I'm having to go to Germany, so I'll talk to you guys. I probably will be able to talk to you guys over there because I got the unlimited international plan. So if you guys need anything, just hit me up.
Will do.
Stuff.
So, you guys, thanks for having me on. Bye.
Yeah, circumcision's the devil's work.
No, it's not. Fuck you.
Yes.
Bye.
Yeah.
That's bold saying that to a Catholic.
Is it sad that you guys had that conversation more than once?
No, and I'll continue to have that conversation because I know I'm in the right.
Yeah, it's generally a bad thing to mutilate babies.
Oh yeah, I understand the negatives against it. Trust me, but it's just society pressures. I mean, if you're the kid that's not like that, that's weird. I've had girls tell me that they've been with guys that weren't like that, and it was kind of freaky for them at first. There's more than just one reason.
No, I mean, yeah, if circumcision wasn't in the norm, chances are you wouldn't have kids having that conversation.
I'm still confused why it became a norm. Like why a bizarre like.
Well,
Jewish
Wait.
tradition
I'm gonna count
turned-
down until the chat says it was the Jews.
No, it was the Jews.
So God can separate us.
It kind of boils back to the first conversation we were having. It's tradition, essentially.
Not with the Christians. That wasn't a Christian tradition.
They took it from the Jews.
Yeah, I mean, there again was also like traditions blending together, and it's sort of like it's kind of like fashionable to do it.
Well, it originally started so people could identify you as a certain group, I believe, or at least that's the Bible version. I don't know if the Bible version is right, but
Yeah. By snipping the baby's foreskin off, he was entering some covenant with God, and it proved that he was one of the chosen people, and all that Old Testament bullshit.
well, Shmeko, what would you do if God told you to do it?
If God came to me and said, "Hey, snip your kid's dick," then I'd be like, "Oh shit, there's a fucking God. I'd better fucking listen to the motherfucker." Turns out he's real. I'm gonna do what he says.
And I'm willing to bet there was a lot of really good drugs back in the day. So I bet they really thought they were talking to a burning bush was really God.
Yeah, that bush wasn't on fire a minute ago, man. That's where I got these fucking berries from. What the fuck happened?
And you know they said man. Man.
Of course they did. It was part of the fucking vocabulary back then.
Oh, I have to bring this up. Somebody in the chat says it was actually Kellogg's who started bringing up circumcision to stop kids from masturbating.
Oh, that's true. Dr. Kellogg's. Yeah, he brought that in. It was.
Wait.
Yeah, that does sound familiar.
Kellogg's like the cereal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The guy who came
the
up.
guy who made the cereal. Yeah, technically it wasn't him. It was his brother, but he took the credit for it.
Where do you think all the foreskin goes? You ever had Frosted Flakes?
Well, back
They
then
actually came up with Frosted Flakes and Corn Flakes as a cereal so bland and just boring that it would just make you not want to masturbate.
Well, I think what he was trying to do, because he was doing like a perfect health diet plan and all that to try and help society. And one of the things he was doing was, of course, like he was the circumcision. Others was exercise and religion and all that other kinds of stuff. But I mean, none of it helped. It was all kind of nonsense. But he tried to do something. So. Yeah. Yeah, Kellogg's. I haven't actually looked on Dr. Kellogg's stuff in a long time. It's bizarre to say the least. The stuff that he would do. So, let's see here. What else is going on?
Do you know why the chat doesn't come up on the computer?
Why?
No, it's a question.
I see it right now.
I actually have to open up two separate windows. So like I have I'm watching the stream and I'm talking in here at the same time. But I just pause the stream so that way I don't have to hear it. I can just see the wonderful chat, which reminds me. Hey chat.
I guess have it here. Anyways.
You guys got anything to say or anything to ask us while we're waiting for Schmeckel? Because I think he went off somewhere.
Samaj talks to chat.
I do. I'm a bit of a fag that way. I actually care about the people who listen to us. I don't know why.
They don't gotta pay you for you to talk to them.
Do you think? No, I'm not. This isn't the Kumite, okay?
I love those channels.
Oh, I don't know, man.
We'll talk to the chat regardless of whether or not they pay us. We'll just not really enjoy it unless they're paying us.
Yeah, well, if they pay us, I moan.
They pay you guys now?
Yeah, every now and then, Tim.
That's lucky.
Yeah, it happens when you have someone like Samaj here. He has a way with words and sounds that just brings in the money.
You are a dirty, dirty fucking liar. You are.
How's it going, Don?
Hey, man, how goes it?
Not too bad. What do you think about tradition?
It's useful. Are you fucking me now?
Not yet.
You new topic.
Oh shit! I still have the stream open. I'm an asshole.
There you are.
Anyway, so tradition's useful when it's useful and should be examined to determine when that is, right? So, like, cutting half the dick off kids, probably not a good idea. But the idea of staying married for the sake of staying married, probably not a bad idea.
Oh, see, now that's a good one. We should bring that one up. The marriage and the tradition of it. Yeah. What do you guys think?
It has its benefits, mainly tax related, but benefits.
Well, that's not true, man. So, I mean, yes, there are lots of tax benefits, but the studies and really any information we have that relate to the idea of multi-parent households suggest that the outcome is definitively better, regardless of whatever your preference is, versus single-parent households. And studies we subsequently have say that multi-parent households that are the original parents are better than those with step parents. So preferably, people choose in a long-term sense to get married and stay married, as opposed to like, meh, marriage just fucking happens, whatever.
Well, yeah. But I mean, do you need the marriage, a long-term, consistent relationship?
Look,
with,
if you want
or
to define it as a couple who gets together and stays together forever and raises their children and are tied together regardless of legal requirement, then I mean, I don't think that defies the point. It just argues the legality.
Exactly. That's what I tend to think of more when asked the question about the tradition of marriage, right?
Right.
I tend to think about marriage itself, matrimony, all that.
Well, so other in that sense, that in the sense of does actually sitting down in front of a priest and a judge and all that kind of shit, does that actually matter? That's sort of a personal decision. But the question really is, are you willing to stick it out through the tough times, even the really tough times, to ensure A, that you stay together, and B, that your kids have a good life? And whether it is intentional or not, there seems to be a very heavy correlation, at least in studies, between people who actually get married versus people who just say that's the case. There's at least a subconscious line where they say, well, we actually did the marriage thing, so I guess we ought to stick it out.
Are you saying it's important to stick it out even if you don't have kids?
Well, so if you don't have kids, I mean, do whatever you want, I guess. But preferably this is what the time of dating in your life is for, right? Hypothetically, your courtship time frame is where you find someone that you could stick it out for a lifetime with. And then this would be the at least subconscious differentiation in the minds of everyone is like, well, yeah, you date lots of people, but hypothetically you only marry one, right? And whether or not celebrities show us that is bullshit every day of the week is almost irrelevant, because the simple fact of the matter is, for like actual civilian people that are not, billionaires, it is a hell of a deal to get divorced, right? You don't just snap your fingers and get divorced. You go like, okay, let's divide up our stuff. Let's, debate every single thing that's ever happened. And there is a barrier to exit, right? So you can't just go like, well, I'm single again, if you've been married under the legal system.
Yeah, I guess it does kind of put up that barrier, so you can't just take off. It forces you to put some thought into it.
Exactly. Now, if you, that right there, that's professionalism that I just did. Anyway, if you think that whatever makes you happy in this particular moment is the thing that should guide our lives, then this is a bad thing. However, I would suggest that the statistical outcomes based on anything we have of relative studies say that that's bad for society, right? So while you individually may be happier, you probably won't be happier with how society outputs.
Yeah, I could see that.
Well, the question remains: do we keep traditions going, whether or not there's good statistics backing them up, or do we just keep them going because for tradition's sake?
I would suggest the answer to that lays almost entirely to how much the tradition impacts the world, right? So
Okay.
if traditionally you hang Christmas lights, like, is that really a problem? You know,
Well, let's say they're not hanging Christmas lights and they're hanging, mangers, in
sure.
city hall, or they're putting crosses.
You crossed a line there, right? So that's public
Well,
property.
that's an
If you're hanging
interesting.
it on your own property, that's a different thing.
It's an interesting line to cross to me because, it's a very interesting thing in the United States where the majority of the people living here are actually Christian, but they still try and keep a secular divide.
Absolutely.
And to me, that's where tradition starts to kind of, where in any other country, I shouldn't say any other country, but if you looked in history, the United States, if it didn't have this secular framework, would most definitely have a Christian framework, and
Certainly.
you'd see crosses everywhere you went.
Well, so understand that I'm not arguing that putting up a major on public property is inherent harm, right? What I'm saying is that certainly whatever you're doing on your own property, whatever you're doing of your own tradition, volition, fine, as long as it's not harming someone else. Now, personally, I don't actually see the harm in putting up a manger on public property, but somehow or another we've adjudicated that somehow is harm.
Yeah. Well, I think the only way that we would consider it harm is because it starts to break down what a secular state can and can't do. And if the United States just automatically decided one day that weren't going to be a secular state and they were going to be a Christian state, then I don't really think there's much you could say.
Do you think it's probably showing favoritism towards one religion over maybe another one? And that would probably seem a bit hypocritical for a secular state.
I don't know. Like if you're in a state like Saudi Arabia and it's during Ramadan and you see people fasting all the time, and Islam's a bad example because they don't really allow for images or that kind of stuff.
Well, so can I suggest the opposite here, right? So putting up the manger is fine. No one is saying you can't put up a menorah. No one is saying that you can't do Islam things, right? But the argument has become freedom from religion, not freedom of religion. This has inherently eroded the idea of traditions. Communities can come together around the idea of Christmas, regardless of how much you believe in Christ, right? Like the vast majority of us celebrate Christmas. And so what we have done is say, well, stop doing that, right? So no longer is the tradition of coming together as a community important, because hypothetically there is a serious problem based on having put up a manger. Well, what the hell was that problem? An atheist was offended? I don't think I really care.
Well, to me, and like I said before, it is a very interesting situation in the United States because it's not very often that a country that has such a large majority, and I correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's over 70% is identify as some sort of Christian.
Not anymore. We're down
like 65 or something.
It depends on who you listen to, but it's anywhere between 50 and 65. But the eminent majority is lost.
Are you talking? Is that including like active Christians, or is it just any Christian?
Again, it depends on who you talk to.
Okay.
The surveys of how Christian are you by nature of what they are difficult to really categorize.
Yeah.
So, like, are you Christian? If it's yes or no, then we get slightly higher numbers. That's the 60 to 65 range. When you start breaking down, like, Do you just say that you're Christian, never go to church? Then you start getting lower numbers.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'll say for the sake of argument that a vast majority is a theist of some sort.
I don't think that's unrealistic, but I mean that goes to no matter how you survey it, atheists are the minority.
Yeah,
right?
it's like I think 2 or 3%, and if you include agnostic, it goes up a lot more. But
I just want to point out though, it is a little messed up that you can't be in any form of government in Texas unless you believe in God in some form. It's like written into our laws.
Well,
Yeah.
and to some degree or another, who cares, right?
Yeah,
So
it's a
the
little messed up.
atheist answer to that is I believe in the flying spaghetti monster.
Yeah, there you
therefore
go.
I believe in God, right? And I believe in a God. Whether or not you approve of the God, I believe in a God. And this is why these kind of religious litmus tests don't matter, and why they're almost an irrelevancy in the question of does tradition matter? Because there are obvious circumventions of this that would permit people with good ideas to ascend to the top.
well, I'm
Yeah,
glad
I
you
mean,
brought.
you can
Go ahead.
you can go kind of non-religious with this too if you're talking about just does tradition matter, because look at Halloween. That's not really a religious holiday, but the traditions of Halloween have been broken down by fear perpetuated by the media. Like, when I was a
Halloween
little
is
kid,
definitively a religious tradition. It's
Well,
just
it's
not a
All
religion
Hallows
that we
Day.
exactly. It's not a religion that we recognize regularly today.
yeah,
Now,
well, I
I
mean,
have
Just
no
like
problem.
Valentine's Day and all those other
Right.
days.
Exactly.
Well, it brings up an interesting point because it actually kind of highlights the importance historically of religion in enforcing tradition, and it's usually by holidays or feasts or festivals, and it goes all the way back to the Greeks and the Romans, the Egyptians.
that's a chicken and the egg argument, though, because we would break up the year with something anyway. That goes all the way back to when we were living in caves and shit. You had to break up the monotony of the winter with something. That's why you see more holidays in the winter time, because you're just living in a cave with a bunch of other fucking people.
That's a supposition on the far side of history, right? So we think that was the case. We have no real evidence that that's the case. Furthermore, a lot of that argument came directly from the atheists who just went, the Christians co-opted everything. And that, to me, that's not necessarily a good argument. Yes, I understand Christians co-opted a lot. However, that doesn't mean they co-opted everything. And just supposing a thing without any evidence is not good.
Well, no, I
would not
don't mean.
tolerate this if the Christians did it see creationism.
No. I don't really fall. I don't fall under any labels. I don't know. I listen to pretty much everything. I go to church sometimes. I grew up Christian. I'm not calling this from an atheist point of view. I'm just pointing out generally it's most likely that this is how we have done things. As far back as we know, we have always celebrated holidays throughout the year in different ways, whether it's through the pagan religions where they were burning sacrifices and stuff at different times of the year, through the solstice and things like that. We break up the year in certain ways. So religion is just another way to categorize it.
But I don't really understand, because you say pagans as if pagans didn't have religion. Religion is kind of a mechanism, in my opinion. If we use the psychology of Peterson or Jonathan Haidt, or
No, when I say pagans,
religion is kind of a mechanism to enforce traditional values and events.
Yeah, when I say pagans, I'm just referencing way back when nobody ever knows what to call people back before actual religions really took hold. The people that used to burn sacrifices to the different gods of the wind and the water, all the weird things that humans used to do before they organized it better into their religions.
Those would be pagans, right? So if you burnt sacrifices to the wind and the sun, you are by nature defining yourself as having a religion that has a god of the wind and the sun, And as it's not, monotheism in that way, it's there's not a single God. Thereby, you're a pagan.
Well, I mean, we're going off of, for the sake of
we are
argument, that is
getting
a
way
pagan.
off
Let's just say
whether or not
pre-Christian
this-
religions.
Yeah, that's kind of
and-
what I do. I kind of tend to steer things way too far out there.
Well, so relevantly, I guess the question continues to come back to the title of the stream: what is the value of tradition, right? And so this was sort of my original argument: is that many a tradition does in fact have value. However, we iconicize, I guess is the word, the traditions that we don't like and say, see, tradition does not matter. And we don't compare traditions that did produce positive results with traditions that did not produce positive results.
Yeah.
So, for example, we all know that sacrificing people to the god of whatever does not produce positive results. And yet that is not in comparison to whether or not it's a good idea to stay married, because that's, we consider it too far outside the Overton window. Traditions do have value, many a tradition, right? So for a long time, in many a culture, the tradition was hard work paid off. And if you just defy that for the sake of tradition does not matter, you end up with net negative results across the board.
You actually used to have a tradition of putting moldy bread and things onto wounds before they even knew what penicillin was. It was just traditional because this is what we know does something, even though it doesn't seem like it would make sense.
Some guy used moldy bread one time to staunch the bleeding, and then we somehow learned that worked out, right?
Even before that, willow bark.
Would that be classified as tradition? I thought that'd be more like a practice or like a science or something at the time.
If you did it at a certain time and it was like only one ethnic group doing it and other people weren't doing it, then yeah, you could look at that as a tradition. But that's kind of the issue that I was bringing up before, is just calling, having a very vague definition of tradition kind of leaves us pretty much anywhere to go with this discussion.
Yeah, well, it's just like certain things like the moldy bread sounds like more like medical practice than tradition.
Well, you can't really call it medical practice if they didn't know why it worked.
Right.
Well, maybe they didn't know why it worked. They just know that it did. I mean, it's like if I didn't know.
Hold on, Samaj, because you can say the same thing about marriage, right? I don't know why it works, that it produces a better society. In 1850, when I'm supporting marriage, I don't know why this makes it better. I just know that it does. And we would consider one a tradition, but not the other, if only in light of future ideas of science.
Well, in a social aspect of things, then yeah, that would be it. But I was talking more generalizing in practice of, let's say, like methods, like in the way of using medicine or learning how to use medicine, opposed to, let's say, what you do as a societal norm. I mean, like it's like science is science. It's more like a social tool.
Well,
that we use to predict elements. But you wouldn't really use like math to help with, let's say, your relationship.
Is tying your shoe every day a tradition?
To some degree, yes. And if you don't think so, look at Velcro. But to Samaj's point, before we had science, what did we have to rely on? Tradition, right? So we did what we understood worked, regardless of whether or not that we did, whether or not we knew why it did, right? So we get to stand on the far side of a lot of scientific understanding and say, well, it's not tradition, this is just factual. However, if you were to apply that same principle to the idea of social sciences, where we know factually that staying married and joint raising your own children produces a better societal result, you would say it's not so much that marriage is a tradition, it is just that it's factually better. And so you can't hold both, you can't hold the position that it is scientifically accurate, therefore tradition's irrelevant, because when tradition coincides, then tradition was correct. Now, To be fair, this doesn't necessarily mean that we should hold tradition always, no matter what. It just says that tradition, at least sometimes, was correct.
I was just mostly arguing the semantic argument. I like certain things. You could call it tradition. I don't think I necessarily would. It's
Well,
just
I mean, there is a term traditional medicine.
yeah. I mean, I could see that.
But
Well,
the
let's-
language that we're using, I should say, should be noted that we're almost referring to the time before science as the traditional time, where everything depended on mores from cultures and traditions, and now we're living in this post-tradition world where we could evaluate some of these traditions and start to say whether or not we should keep doing them or not.
But you don't really know the value of a tradition and what it brings until after it's gone, and by then it might be too late.
Well,
So
is that
always
really true? I mean, you just brought up before how you thought Halloween had this religious whatever, and we've altered it to the Halloween that we have today.
Yeah, but we still kept the tradition of the thing we lost when we lost Halloween, if you haven't noticed, is a lot of a sense of togetherness. Like when I was a little kid, there was a lot more a sense at least of safety and togetherness, at least within your community. I mean, my mom used to just send us out to get candy, and every lawn you would see cauldrons for bobbing apples. Someone set up a haunted house out front, or their garage was open, or you could go right into their house.
Can I be just that asshole for a moment? We disagree that that's the current case. However, statistically, by any metric you would even consider that matters, you could send your children out, and I literally do mine, and say, hey, children, be back by 10 p.m. Here's a watch, right?
But they're not going to see the same thing when they go out. Like it's not like it was when I was a kid at all. Like nobody does the stuff anymore.
While society has a negative impact based on the propaganda, the reality is that sending your children to great, neighborhoods, we'll say, produces them getting the same enjoyment, and sending them to shitty neighborhoods just gets them candy. By any statistical average, no matter how you slice it, and I mean this literally, bring up any statistic you want other than this one house produces negative results because there are people who produce negative results on this 1 year. Literally anything outside of that line says that we still hold this community tradition of Halloween. We just have the media hammering it to death as though it doesn't matter.
I see it as a very different Halloween now when I take my children out as it was when I was a little kid. It used to be so much more involved, and everybody knew each other so much better because of it.
Well, and that could also be like geographical locations. I know I used to live in smaller towns, and like Halloween over there is very much like the classic Halloween that most people think of. And then I come into the city, and there's like virtually no kids that go out, at least in my city anyway. Virtually no kids that really go out for Halloween. But if you go to the malls, there's lots of kids in there. And I think the part of the reason for that is because we have a lot of things like parenting has changed, and we have a lot of the what's called helicopter parents.
Yeah, trunk or treat.
They don't want to run the risk of potentially kids getting harmed, so they'll just take them to a mall where it's seen as safer. And this is a good thing we're talking about tradition, because
the mall is a terrible place if you're thinking of child safety.
I know,
They're
right?
always getting abducted from there.
Yeah, well, you try telling them that, they think it's safer. Have you ever been to the mall like on Halloween? I went there. It's crazy. It is crazy. You like watch your wallet, because if a kid wants to pickpocket you, they could do that.
Well, it's an interesting point, because Amanda brought up Halloween when she was a kid, and I'm just assuming, but maybe she's around my age. Like when I was going trick or treating as a kid, it was during the late '80s and the '90s. And if you actually looked at the statistics, you had a much better chance of getting killed or attacked or something during the '90s than you can now. And a lot of people could come to the conclusion that the reason why it's so safe is because, well, one, we took lead out of a lot of stuff, and two, we're so mindful of what is safe and what isn't safe. So people are constantly paranoid about their kids, even going trick or treating and getting attacked.
It's so much more boring.
Look, Halloween. Like, I'll take a moment here to talk about like Halloween and how it's sort of been portrayed and how it's been viewed. Halloween has always been, at least in my eyes, a rite of passage, a mark of growth. Because on Halloween, you do the opposite of everything you're told not to do. One, you have to dress normal when you go out. No, you could dress like a goddamn superhero, a princess, a monster. You dress however you bloody well want. And on top of all that, you always say you have to come home before it's dark. And what are the kids doing? You're going out when it's good and dark, dressed as some other kind of weird thing. And what's another thing we tell these kids? Don't take candy from strangers. What's the one thing they're doing? Taking candy from strangers.
Eating way too much of it.
Eating way too much of it. And on top of all that, we tell these kids, don't go to strangers' houses. Don't go talking to weird people. And that's exactly what you're doing.
And look, stop right there, because that's a prime example of why Halloween is a good tradition. And you're arguing it based on the semantic, quote, reality of what we tell children based solely on fear-mongering, right? Is there some particular reason you distrust your neighbors? Do you know for a fact that they are all murderers? Because in that case, I don't imagine you're sending your children to your neighbor's house, nor has anyone ever been in the case of Halloween. And yet we rely on these fear-mongering, bullshit, single excuse reasons to tell them, oh, don't trust strangers. And this is the kind of thing that dissuades us from being a community, right? You tell the kids, never trust anyone around you, therefore they don't. However, Halloween in and of itself was a mandate that you trust your community. You had to.
I was agreeing with Samaj and saying that that's what was great about Halloween. Like, I didn't think he was saying that was my favorite thing about Halloween. You're doing the opposite of what you're supposed to. And then after you've ate all the candy and you've gotten to the kind of almost an adult age where you can still get away with bad shit because you're not old enough to be prosecuted, but you're old enough that you're doing bad shit, you start spray painting and throwing eggs and pranking people and doing terrible shit you should never do, and you'll learn shit from that.
Preferably you don't spray paint, but I'm all in for the TPing and egging. Right?
Yeah, throw some fucking eggs and some toilet paper. That's just a pain in the ass to clean.
Right.
Don't fucking spray paint houses.
Every 90s movie has the kid with the spray paint can. That's why
I don't give a fuck about 90s movies. The simple fact of the matter is, if my kid egged a house, I'd be like, motherfucker, get a mop and go clean it up. If my kid spray painted a house, I'm stripping the side of someone's house and I'm repainting it for them. And the reality of tradition is that I have some sort of responsibility to my child's actions. Thereby, I go to someone's house and I say, hey, man, my kid spray painted your house. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to strip your house next week. I understand that's not going to be fun. I'm sorry. I'm going to repaint it. I understand that's not going to be fun. But it's my back that needs to be broken. And my job as a parent was to grab my kid, hand his ass a paintbrush, and be like, bitch, get on a ladder. You're helping fix this.
There you go. That's what I was going to say. No, make your kid do it was what I was because that's the thing. That's when you learn the responsibility, the consequences. Oh, you get to run out and do the bad thing and I'm so cool. I'm never getting in trouble. And then the next day you get in fucking trouble and you learn something.
Well, that's right, right. So this is an idea of personal responsibility, which is definitely where the vast majority of traditions lie, right?
Yeah.
They on a huge majority basis have personal responsibility built in. While none of them ever necessarily said it, they all just made it happen. And when we abandon tradition en masse, what we're saying is like, well, that personal responsibility thing doesn't matter much. And you could say, oh, but Dawn of Two Plebs, you are exaggerating. But the reality is that's the output we've seen.
But
Yeah.
no, I totally agree with you. Massively, massively we have problems with personal responsibility from everybody I see around me. Like that's what bugs me so much about everything that they say we need ban abortions. No, people need to understand personal responsibility when it comes to if you need an abortion, you should get one, but this isn't something you should use as birth control. Ban guns. No, you need some fucking personal responsibility.
So hold on now, because abortions I take is almost a personal insult. Now, understand that I am not horrendously conservative on the subject of abortions. However, no matter how conservative you get, what you find is that even the hyper religious retarded by massive quantities say, look, if it's a threat to the mother, abort that kid. If it's because of rape, abort that kid. If it's because something relatively similar, abort that kid. Now, truth be told, they would all grant all of those premises to overturn Roe v. Wade, which says abortion on demand all the time, no matter what, period.
But the thing is that with that, you have to expect a waiver. Like I have to go and get a waiver that says that I can get, an abortion because my medical issues. I die if I get pregnant, basically, is my thing. But I have to go get a medical waiver. Then you're further into your pregnancy by the time you get through all the red tape and bureaucracy. And you're also against the idea of late-term abortions. You want the abortion to happen as quick as possible. That doesn't happen if you have to go through all the red tape. This is a further developed kid you at that point then have to do something with.
Well, hold on. The categorization that I just gave said if there's an issue, then yes. If there's not an issue, then no. Right?
I know, but if you take it to that point, like if you can only get an abortion if you have an issue, then you have to get a waiver from a doctor or something. That could be the only way you could get an abortion. What
other pretense should there be if you don't think it should be used as birth control?
Oh, it absolutely shouldn't be used as birth control. It's a woman's responsibility, a woman's decision, really. Like this is a huge
Well, if it's a woman's decision, then it's available to be birth control.
No, look, you have to have it available to everybody. Yes, there are some sick, twisted, messed up people who will use it as just birth control. They're messed up fucking people. But I think genuinely, if people understand the massive responsibility you take as a woman with the idea of getting pregnant, like I think
thereby the
before
question
you ever get pregnant, before you ever have sex, like
thereby the question should be a medical one and not one related to anybody's choice other than a medical professional's, right?
But then you get issues like me.
We should also ask what's the consequence of not providing it and then they retroactively decide to do something about that.
Yeah.
We have to deal with the things like the coat hanger, backdoor stuff.
And what about situations like me? Like hyperemesis scardibium is not widely known by all doctors. I sat in like 3 different hospitals in Dallas for hours throwing up blood, and they kept telling me I was having a difficult pregnancy and to go home.
Do you live in Canada?
No, Texas. That's what Dallas is in Texas.
I'm sorry, I missed the.
Yeah, it's okay. No, I mean, I'm just saying, like, there are other consequences besides the medical one, especially for those who are going to act on it in probably in malicious ways. Not to mention the fact that what if these are people who also got together, and you also have to worry like, will the boyfriend, if it's a violent boyfriend in particular, would decide to take action as well. I mean,
You can't
these are
do
extreme.
that, right?
It's an extreme. It is an extreme, and that's fairy tale to say the least.
That's follow-on ridiculousness, right? So if I can seek eminent minority, then I can say we should ban all cars all over the world because ISIS will hit people with cars to kill them. And if you're going to seek eminent minority, then that is an applicable argument, right? So the simple argument here does come down to whether or not it's medical necessity or just we're using it as birth control. Look, don't get me wrong. Make no mistake. I'm fine with using it as birth control. Other people aren't. A lot of my subscribers aren't. I understand that. And I'm not saying they're wrong. In fact, they're right, in my opinion, logically speaking. However, what I do know is that the societal output says that less people who don't want children is better. So I argue this statistical argument. That's not a healthy argument in relation to emotions. I understand that based on but think of the children, I'm totally wrong, and I accept that. So if we accept the think of the children argument, the answer is abortion by medical necessity, period.
But I'm not using the thing. Sorry, go ahead.
But if we don't accept abortion by medical necessity only, then the answer is we're arguing for abortion as birth control. And there is literally no way to get around it. Now, Amanda, I understand in your particular case, you had a medical necessity / impetus, we'll say, that said this is a horrendously bad idea. But the simple fact of the matter is that if we argued medical necessity only, and you can argue that lots of doctors aren't familiar with, but the simple fact of the matter is some are, therefore you consult appropriate doctors. What you do is say, hey, I have this medical necessity. I've consulted an appropriate physician. That physician has said, yes, I need to abort child. Well, let me tell you right now, the vast majority of conservative Christians would have gone, yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, then you have to overhaul the medical system to where OBGYNs and emergency care doctors actually understand issues that could cause a woman to have an abortion. Like they don't in a lot of cases.
Look, you're talking to the wrong person here. I think the medical system in the United States is horrendously wrong for a wide variety of reasons, not the least of which is that we base a lot of it on feelings as opposed to medical fact.
Oh yeah, I think it's a massively messed up system too. I just don't think it ever will be overhauled to a point that it'll be I think there'll be a lot more cases like me if we do it medical necessity. There'll be a lot of cases where the doctor has no idea what's going on and the chick dies because she couldn't get the abortion because the doctor was stupid.
Hey guys, I gotta take off.
All right.
All right.
It was good having you, Tim.
Yeah, it felt like old times.
Well, hey man, it's been good talking to you, even though I don't know you before this instance. So nice meeting you.
I think we were in streams together. I was politely atheist, but I'm repping the academy right now. But,
I think I do know you as politely atheist.
I do distinctly remember you guys have been in a couple streams together before.
Yeah, no, it was fun. Let's do it again.
Yeah, right. Well, hey, man, if you don't follow me on Twitter, do it, and we'll talk again.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
Bye.
See you later, Tim.
See you guys.
All right, Samaj, I'm going to need your services. We got $5 from American Phoenix. He says, greeting cunts. The Phoenix has arrived. Hello, Paige.
Oh.
There we are.
Yeah, sorry I keep dragging us off into left field. That's kind of what I do.
Well, let me throw this out there real quick. If you never had abortion, our population would at least double, and that would suck.
Oh, I never had an abortion.
No, I'm not you.
Oh.
You didn't have 300 million kids. I'm saying if it never existed.
Sorry. I heard that wrong. I thought you said if I'd never had an abortion, my population would be at least double. I was like, what the fuck? That doesn't make sense.
Jesus.
I'm tired. It's been a long day with 5 kids who would not. I've got a kid with OCD, and I swear my sister's middle child has OCD too, because they will not stop repeating.
Oh, oh, I weep for you. That sounds terrible. That sounds absolutely horrendous.
Well, outside of abortion, what other traditions should we be discussing?
Well, let's see. We talked holidays. We did Halloween, a little bit of Christmas, marriage, executions.
Yeah, what do you guys think about throwing gays off buildings?
Well, I'm just saying it should be an Olympic fucking sport. I mean, what?
They could do it kind of like that one Scottish thing where they throw the telephone poles.
Right?
Didn't they?
That's all I'm saying.
Like
grab them by the feet. It's a distance discussion. This could happen.
There could be multiple categories: distance,
Right.
best splatter, best aim.
Oh,
Different categories.
Most importantly, most fabulous.
I was gonna say best dressed.
Now, I don't know how. Like I know when they started doing that, it was around the time when all the people were paying attention to them. Were they doing that before? Because I don't know if they were. Throwing the gays off the roof.
Well, look, they weren't doing exactly that, right? But they were killing gays, right?
Okay.
So,
see, yeah.
I mean, if we want to get actually serious about this, killing gays has been an Islamic standard for a very long time. But if we want to get funny about this, then the question is, are they wearing sandals? But the simple fact of the matter is, in relation to whether or not is this a good tradition, the answer is clearly no, right? You're determining something based on categorize it however you want, preference or biological. I say that based on the situation, but categorize it however you want. We're saying that this is the thing that is you, thereby we're hucking you off a building. Well, like, if my favorite color is blue, should you huck my ass off the building? Probably no.
Blue is heresy.
That's probably true.
I'll see you burn for it.
It's standard issue.
I asked if my favorite color was blue. I didn't say my favorite color was blue. Fuck you, Schmeckle.
Okay, you're lucky. You almost got on my bad side.
Oh, there's a tradition we could talk about. You talk about heresy and burning people. The crown. Like the fact that they still have a monarchy. That's traditional.
That actually is a very good one. What purpose does the British monarchy serve?
As far as I can tell,
Nationalism.
yeah, symbolism maybe.
The monarchy of Britain is their symbol of nationalism. That's it.
Well, I mean, they got rid of it and they brought it back, so obviously it must have been doing something for them. They've kept it this long.
Well, so if you don't have a heavy ideological position of nationalism, our country means X, then what you need is a monarch to hyper-focus people on what the country means. It is much easier than it is to say, these are the ideals we believe in. Thereby, Britain says, we have a monarch. The monarch embodies the ideas of the country. And thereby, we have nationalism, right? So, to this degree, nationalism is not wrong. It's just a different method of believing in a set of ideals than whatever those of us who are not monarchists believe in.
I guess, but I mean, it just seems weird because it's not even, it doesn't follow its own rules. That's not the actual royal family that should be there. And they know this now. They studied it. They found it out. They don't care.
You can only say that in light of the eternity of history as opposed to what Britain is doing now, right? So they said, well, these are the rules of the monarchy, and we are Britain, and we have determined that these are the rules of the monarchy. And you're saying, well, but historically for 1,000 years, that's not what monarchy meant. Well, that is an irrelevancy, right? Like, well, a bazillion years ago, republics look like Rome. That doesn't mean that any republic now has to be Rome.
So you're saying it doesn't matter now that they know that the bloodline stuff isn't real. They can still keep their tradition without having to actually follow their tradition. It's okay.
Well,
It's not-
so even at a time when the bloodline had to follow, the answer was anyone who challenged the king and won was clearly defined by God, and that was a new bloodline that was clearly defined by God to rule. Thereby, they're pretty clearly following the rules of monarchy.
Yeah, basically, if you ended up on the throne, you belonged on the throne.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But have y'all actually seen the documentary I'm talking about? Do you know? The actual person who should be on the throne, bloodline-wise, lives in Australia. It's a dude.
That's entirely irrelevant.
Was it Alex Jones?
No.
Look, well, stop right there, right? So, like, factually speaking, to some degree or another, I belong on the throne of Britain. I have British heritage, however limited, and thereby I have a claim to the throne that supersedes people who are not British in any way, shape, or form. This doesn't inherently mean that anyone should follow this line. In simply speaking, by nature of transfer of power throughout all of history, if you were following that sort of thing, the simple fact of the matter was you were doing it for the sake of saying your own claim. You weren't doing it for the sake of the country or any legitimate claim. It was saying, yeah, that guy beat my grandfather's ass, but he totes shouldn't have, bro.
So that's the actual tradition of the monarchy, that the crown actually passed to whoever's strong enough to claim it should pass to them.
Generally speaking, regardless of however Britain would like to characterize it, yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah, that's why usurpers were a thing. They'd come, they'd take over. They're only a usurper for so long before they're just called the king.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. That's what they did with the boys in the tower, actually, right? The boys in the tower should have been kings, so they just hid them away long enough until the other dude's king.
Exactly. That's politicians aren't honest now. What makes you think they were more honest in the past?
That's true.
They were just a lot more, bloody about it, I guess, back then.
Dickish.
They weren't quite as subtle. It was a different time. They were slower people.
They were slower people.
Well, they hadn't managed to catch up to the 21st fucking century yet, so yeah, fucking slow.
Hey, Schmeckle.
Yes.
I hear you have super chats.
I
We had like one so far.
yeah, I think I already read that.
Did you?
Why?
Yeah.
Are they trying to say
American
like?
team.
Are they trying to say like Streamlabs or something?
Now, there's a dirty rumor in the side chat for those of us in the stream that you have super chats.
Oh no, that was Tim. That was the one we already read.
Well, fuck you, Tim.
I think
I
Samaj isn't doing his job.
Or both.
Yeah, I fucking moan for these people. All right, I moan. I share with them the sounds of my orgasms. How could they?
As much as I love Samaj, he also seems worth mockery. What can I say?
Well, I haven't gotten laid in over 8 years, so I think that's well worth mockery.
I was gonna
Samaj.
say, why didn't he mock you for the moan when you don't get laid?
Whoa, why? Hold on, why? Why haven't you been late in 8 years?
Well,
All right. Stop.
Yeah,
That
there's
is
a tradition
irrelevant.
to discuss.
No, that is not irrelevant.
Well, hold on a
answer
second.
here is hashtag hookers for Samaj.
Exactly.
well, hold on a second. It's been about eight years. Is that a tradition?
Yes, the tradition of Samaj not getting laid. We
Oh,
have
that tradition. I don't want to talk about that tradition.
That's a sad
Men
tradition.
worldwide have a tradition of saying no.
Yeah.
Do we actually want to talk about this tradition or just fix it?
We've already got it planned out. Hookers
Does he
are
want it?
illegal, but we can get him involved in a porno.
Yeah.
We'll hire an
Yeah.
actress.
You know what we need to
Get
do?
a camera.
We need,
I'll
we
film.
need to start Mercedes Carrera and Samaj.
I have no problem with that. I
See? No one will argue with this. All I'm saying, Mercedes Carrera and Samaj.
What does she cost? 10 grand?
Let's
Irrelevant.
let's hope we can do it for fucking E-Fame.
Samaj, I think we might be able to. I know we can get in touch with her. If
That
we
is
can
a
raise the
fact.
money, we could get you some Mercedes Carrera poon.
She would do it for the pub.
maybe I know she'd go on like what? I know she would go on quote unquote dates with vets. So
Yvette?
no vets like veterans for
Yeah, are you a vet?
no.
Well,
But I know someone with a vet's jacket.
Stolen valor.
Hey, it's a
that's awesome.
no, it's not stolen valor. It's like what's
I'll
that
just
thing?
I'll just nail Mercedes Carrera with a jacket. So it's not stolen valor.
I don't think the soldiers would mind. I think they'd take that. It's fine. You just go get laid.
It's a rescue mission at this point.
Yeah.
As a vet, I'm torn about whether or not I should loan you a jacket.
Well, if you can lend me a jacket and a couple of war stories, hey, you know what? I mean, maybe you can help me out.
Oh, now we need you to pay me. That's all I'm saying.
Oh. Well,
Samaj, Paige Avilas in the chat says, if it makes you feel any better, I'm almost 25 years old and I've never had sex before. Why the fuck don't we fix two problems?
Right?
That's just a plane ticket. That's like $200.
if you live
There
in,
you go.
what are we trying to arrange here? Some sort of a gangbang porno?
Why do you want to do
No,
a
you two
gangbang?
should fuck, basically.
Seriously, at this point, the cunt stream is just fixing over 21 virgins. Like, hey, bitches, if you're between 21 and 23, you can come to X place and gangbang the shit out of a bitch.
You know what?
Exactly. Very soon, you will see the Cunt Stream online dating website where you will be able to go and find multiple profiles, all run by Samaj.
Yeah,
Oh.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, you've got your pick, though. You could have sensitive Samaj. You could have manly Samaj. I've seen those pictures.
We're gonna go ahead and withhold those, and we're gonna say I don't know, Tim Kennedy. Yeah, that's what manly Samaj looks like.
I have no idea who that is.
I was gonna say who?
Jesus. People are killing me. All right, hold on.
Oh, Peggy.
Is that like an 1986 reference?
No, that is a current day reference.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, I'm a mom. I don't know shit from current day.
You'll have an oh god. Sorry, I'm reading the chat. Something about an orgy with my hookers. Fuck. Anyway.
You live in Canada?
Unfortunately.
Is hookers legal up there?
It's legal to sell, illegal to buy.
All I'm saying.
So Samaj is
All
selling
I'm
himself.
saying. This is all I'm saying right there. This is Samaj right here. You
That's
can have
accurate.
some Samaj. And no matter how many fat people say they are attached to Samaj, this is Samaj. Deal with it.
Are you fucking doxing me, bro? Which I'm yeah, that's accurate.
I'll take that one.
Yes, I'm toads doxing you.
Oh, Cunstream, what have you done to me?
Nothing good.
Nothing
Oh,
yet,
we-
apparently.
He's 18 and
I've
6.
always wanted to be Kaj.
Was that their
What did you say, Senex?
Nothing. I said he's 18 and 6. His record.
Okay. So anyway, we're gonna wrap this one up. This is really wearing on my fucking throat. So tonight we had the Politipod, the Academy, the Cynics, Dawn from Two Plebs, Amanda Wolfchild, Samaj Zed, and I'm fucking Schmeckle. Get the fuck out of here, cunts. I'm going to bed.